Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Stories Podcast, People Helping People. I'm Shara Goswick, your host. My guest today is Quinn Harwood. Quinn is a leadership life coach working with millennials and Gen Z. He loves helping these young people learn about their purpose and how to get unstuck. And when they need direction, he is there to help. He's an author, he's got a book available on Amazon, and he is such an encouragement. I thoroughly enjoyed talking to Quinn. I look forward to reading his book, and I know that you are going to enjoy this conversation. Thanks for being here. Quinn, and now I don't know if I should call you Quinn or Coach Q because I know that was on a lot of your information. What do you like people calling you?
Either or. It's great to be on your show. Either or. Coach Q or Quinn, I'll roll.
Well, I am so excited to talk to you. Like I said earlier, I think life coaching is so valuable and so helpful. And so I love that you're doing that for people. You're also an author. You've got a book and you've got I think, a companion to your book. So I want to hear all about that. But how did you get into coaching? What made you want to do life coaching?
It was really a crisis. I went through a crisis in COVID. I had spent about 17 years in the fitness industry. So after playing professional basketball for a few years, I got into the fitness industry, and I was a mid-senior level manager working out of Austin, Texas for a fitness group. And COVID happened, and it was a really crisis year for me. I went through a painful journey. Unfortunately, right before COVID hit, just devastating. I went through a very unfortunate, unexpected divorce 20 years in. And that was just a shaker for me. Beliefs, values, identity, fatherhood, everything wrapped up in that was just a ball of mess and grief. And so it was a painful crisis. A couple weeks later, COVID hits. We're on furlough and things shut down. Fitness industry shuts down. And I get a call, 17-year career. And hey, we're going bankrupt. We're eliminating your job and your role. And there I am. A couple weeks after that, like the family dog dies. So it was just a really bad country music story, right? And so it was all wrapped up in that, between grief, transition, change. I call it was one of these major life quakes of my life. And life quakes have this pathway of either helping you crumble or creating a life shift. And so in my story, in my personal growth journey, in that process, I built up a level of still bold confidence to have a vision of what's next and what could I still do to make an impact. And in that, I got led into working with a coach, and I work with what I call the great growth coach. That's kind of my fun name for God. And between the coach and God as a coach, I navigated to creating this vision of getting into life coaching and leadership coaching. And really the journey was, how can I impact the next generation, which is my heart. My heart is to impact what I call my Zillennial fam, my Gen Z and millennials. And how can I impact that? And the story of coaching became so central. And so I think the crisis was the catapult to get into that next season, or how to move a mission forward beyond what I'd done in the corporate world. So that was the launch point.
I want to go back to your NBA dreams because I read about that a little bit. Who were you wanting to play for? Like, what was your dream back then?
Yeah, as a kid coming through college, I went to Davidson College. A lot of people, if you're sports fans, will know that for Steph Curry. And coming out of college, my dream was just to make it in the NBA. Did I care where I played for? No. I wasn't this high profile $1 billion achiever, like top draft pick, but I did have some talent. And so in that story, I ended up playing briefly for the Los Angeles Clippers, played in the league below the NBA for a number of years, and I ran into a bunch of adversity. There was a couple different small little quakes, as I call them, that happened that were catalysts to my personal growth journey.
And what could you tell us some of those or give me a couple of those hard lessons? Because those are all hard things. And when you were talking, I was thinking that's like a bad country song. You said it. But what are some lessons that you learned during that time?
Well, if you look at the time of a young person, like if you take me in my early life, and I went through this process of going through a number of injuries that were just unfortuitous when I was trying to achieve and get to the NBA. What I learned during that period was how to build confidence outside of my performance.
Mm.
it's something I coach you quite a bit today, but it's a performance culture mindset. My life was pretty much based upon my performance. If I did well, I felt well. I felt like things were moving and there was forward progress. If I didn't, I become filled with self-doubt, imposter syndrome, self-consumption, self-focus. And so it was during some of those breaking points of my soul in my life that I had to turn internally to find different anchors, identity anchors. And that was a game changer to me early in my personal growth journey.
I know that so many people can relate to that because I went through that period where you feel like your performance is, that's where your worth is found. So if you're not doing good, there's a problem. So I know a lot of people can relate to that. Are you just working with those age groups? Or are you working with anybody, or is that just really your where you're looking?
My niche is usually I work with like people that Gen Z and millennial range. I mostly work with them from a context of life, leadership, or business. So some of the visionary thing that created out of that crisis of COVID was a platform called GrowthTime. And GrowthTime is really how to unlock your best life in leadership and I incorporate business into it. And so life, leadership, and business, I work with people through that journey. So they may come to me to say, hey, I'm trying to achieve this business goal. But invariably, you end up coaching through life issues and leadership issues that helps them move their mission of business. And then there's a group that comes and looks towards me to say, hey, I need to find more purpose, mission, or vision or values in what I'm trying to achieve. I'm not clear on what I'm supposed to and called to really go do. And then you get more into the life coaching space, which then you deal with identity and limiting beliefs and empowering beliefs. So there's all those worlds we probably all struggle with and try to move our mission forward. And so it just depends upon what they're coming to coaching for. I just look at it from a lens of, hey, let's get into growth time and coach through life, leadership, and business so you could really make the biggest impact and really move your mission to the degree that you hope and vision to see happen.
Yeah, and I was going to ask who the ideal candidate is for you for coaching, but you kind of just answered that question. What have you learned about yourself as you have begun coaching other people?
Yeah. I think I've learned so much more and getting certified and credentialed as a coach. And the process, when you go through credentialing and coaching, you learn so much more about the context of coaching and how powerful coaching is to transform lives. It's not just giving people feedback or giving people advice. It's just co-creation in the relationship and allows curiosity, exploration to come through, forward and deepening people's understanding, stretching them with powerful questions. So what you find, and I've found, is that it opens up people's mind, their heart, their values, their beliefs to a point where they feel they're making forward progress in themselves. And then they have power to go make external changes and really get into powerful actions. So I've noticed that, and it's really a game changer, and really a life changer for so many people.
Sure. I know it's so much easier for somebody else who's not in it to see things. You're able to see things in these kids' lives that they can't see. And I know that is helpful. And coach, I experienced that too. And I think it's wonderful. I love that you're getting to do that. Can we talk about your book? Can you tell me about your book?
Yeah, the book is, in which I love your podcast, Life Stories. And I love that you like hearing stories that impact people. And so Growth Time was really birthed out of, personal and challenging pain. And really, Growth Time is the journey. It's written as a coaching fable. And it's written of the story of a struggling professional athlete who eventually has to come to grips with finding himself and his identities and beliefs, and then has to also therefore then navigate through leadership skills to develop into the leader he was called to be. So it's a transformational journey, the book of Growth Time. And I'll tell you something really funny. I decided to write it as a fable, as parable, most because of how I kind of filtered into my kids' life. So when my kids were young, I used to tell them stories, and I'd make up these wild stories about Peter and Tommy, and they were called Peter and Tommy stories, and they would go on these adventures, and there would be some fable or some truth or some what I call growth they needed in their life, and it was phenomenal. And then my daughter came along, and we introduced her Ruby, and in the book, Ruby Star, who's a character in the book, is part of that story. So I incorporated the storytelling theme into how to help people navigate life and leadership. So it was pretty interesting how it came together, and it's been pretty phenomenal to see the response that people are getting into serious and significant growth by going through the journey.
That is awesome. I love that. Is it available on Amazon? Do you need to purchase it through you, or how does that work?
Available on Amazon. Yeah, it's available on Amazon. It's available on Barnes and Noble. You can Google it, anywhere, and you'll be able to, grab it and access it.
Awesome. I'll have that available, the link available for people whenever I post about this. As you've worked with these young people, and even maybe as you were being coached and all those, adversities that you were talking about, what are some of the biggest limiting beliefs you think people have these days?
The one I coach you quite oftenly, there's a couple masks to it, but there's actually three, and this is really about the power of beliefs. There's three really core operating beliefs that I see just limit people from the potential. And that's if I'm coaching someone who's 25 or 45. And really what they are is fear, and really trying to expose the root of fear and having people become clear on what fear really is or operating in their life story. The second limiting belief operating system is self-doubt, and how self-doubt is such an inhibitor for people moving with bold confidence into pursuing their mission.
Yeah.
And the third one's a little bit unique. I see quite a bit. It's a trusting. So we become very dependent upon ourselves in terms of how we navigate our life story. And so self-dependence is different than dependent trust, I call it. And so are we trusting in our team? Are we trusting in our people? And are really depending and trusting in maybe a higher power? And in my world, my faith would be very clear about God on how he's navigating our story. So those are limiters that are universal. And the amazing thing is, I'm facing it every day too. When I'm writing this and I'm having to live out my own beliefs. I'm challenged by my own content, as you know. And so it's universal. But yet, and you move through those, it's just an empowering boldness that comes forward in our lives.
Yeah. I read that you have coached your kids in different things. What have your kids taught you about life and leadership that maybe you haven't learned through coaching other people?
Yep. Yeah. I've coached my kids a lot through sports and athletics, and the journey of helping them become better athletes. But I really coach through navigating principles with them. So much like I would work in the corporate world, even with young kids when I was coaching sports and athletics, it taught me how to distill things to simpler concepts. So oftentimes we can get filled with big words and verbose thoughts, but coaching your kids and slowing down to be at their level and giving them metaphors or analogies that they can understand is so empowering to younger people at that really like teenage years. And what I find is even coaching, adults, sometimes bringing clarity through metaphors or analogies, it you get that aha moment, you get that clarity, and it really sticks and it roots, and then minds change, and that's powerful.
That's awesome. I know they probably love that, and they may not appreciate it now, but they will when they get older. For sure. For somebody that's listening that feels discouraged or they feel stuck, besides contacting you, getting part of your program and coaching, what is a piece of advice you could give, even just one simple thing that somebody could do today?
I think being stuck or stagnant is what really drives people to want to make change. And oftentimes they don't have the clarity of where their personal growth, or I call their growth gap, is.
Yeah.
So it's not that there's something wrong with them. It's not that they're destroyed or broken or completely overwhelmed. It's just that they haven't seen where the real growth gap is that existing in their story. The best journey I've seen people do is get into journaling and getting clarity on what they're navigating through. There was a cool little coaching tool I used and still use sometimes for a bit. I call it the clutter game. And so in the clutter game, you're drawing a big circle. And in that big circle, you're getting all the thoughts in your mind within that circle that are relevant to you. And you're listing where your thoughts and where they're pinging from and what's on your mind, and you're putting them in a big circle. Then you draw a smaller circle and you write down things that may be affecting your heart, things that are weighing your heart down, things that are burdensome to you. And you start writing those things in those circles. And what you do from the clutter game is then you start to determine what can you very easily move outside the circle. Where can you take really immediate action to move things that are swirling from inside of that circle to outside. And outside means you've resolved it, you've accomplished it, you've taken action on it, which is often the hardest thing to do. So that game itself and navigating people through it is a really actual way to get some clarity within you and get into specific action, which is often the hardest thing to do when we're feeling stuck or stagnant.
Absolutely. And, we don't realize what we're thinking about. And I don't know if guys are like this, but women, they say a woman's brain is like a browser with, 35 tabs open. Until you really sit down and are purposeful to think about what you're thinking about, it probably doesn't seem like much, but when you do what you just said and write it all out, you would be amazed at all the thoughts that are swirling around in your head. I think that's such a great exercise for people. I love that. How how does your coaching program work? Is it a one-on-one coaching? Is it a group coaching program? How does that work?
A number of ways. Usually in the business, setting, I'll coach people through the business culture. I work on the entrepreneurial operating system, and we'll go through, we'll navigate strategy, people, process, productivity, and we'll navigate through that component of business. Often people looking for career change or next steps, or clarity on how to perform a certain goal or task. We will actually sit down and really customize their program based upon where they're at and where their goals are trying to achieve. So the first time I meet with somebody, it's really exploratory in nature to really figure out if you're a really good fit for that person and they're a good fit for you, and really get them clarity on what their really goals are, what they really hope to see, and what they really want. And that's a deep question for a lot of people. Like, what do you really, really want? And
Mhm.
your listeners are right now are probably pausing and going, yeah, what do I really, really want? It's
It's
a
hard.
challenging question. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard. So I meet with them. Growth time does prevent a clear pathway of personal professional growth for people. And
Mhm.
oftentimes they could do it themselves, right? The book itself has 6 growth zones, 3 in life and 3 in leadership, that they can do that do it yourself kind of journey. And there's actionable items, even though it's written as a coaching fable, there's definitely pause points where you get into your growth time. Like I like to kind of monikers, like what time is it? It's always growth time. And so yeah.
Love
I,
it.
I say it's kind of I say it's kind of funny is I think there's many seasons we all go through in life. Even from a faith-based perspective or the old bird song, there's a time to reap, there's a time to sow, there's a time to war, there's a time to hate. There's a lot of seasons in life. But one thing I've learned is that God's always into growth time. He's always growing something. And hopefully that might be an encouragement to someone who's listening today that he's not done. He's growing something good in you, and getting into that growth zone will help you fulfill your purpose and find that joy. And so you could go through that yourself, the do it yourself journey, or you could say, hey, you know what? I really want a coach to help navigate my life story and create something powerful in my own life story that I wouldn't be able to necessarily get to on my own.
Yeah.
They can just reach out for sure.
Life coaching is so valuable and so helpful. So I hope people will take advantage of that. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you want to mention before we go?
Oh, that's a great question. Those are powerful questions right there. That's a coaching question specifically. I think if there's a space where I think that you can be identifiable with, how does someone break through self doubt? I think that's a good question. I'm just thinking about your audience and I'm thinking about people who are listening to life stories and there's maybe an urge in them, but they haven't really fully given their whole thought process to how to be a mission mover. And mission moving is something, a common theme I talk to in growth time. I write a weekly newsletter on it. It's free.
Awesome.
People can get connected. It's mindset coaching on different mindsets to help you move your mission. But I think that's something maybe to touch on real quick, how to help people break through self doubt and how to help them break through imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. And I think everybody deals with that all the time. I do many times. That's why coaching is so good. Like I said, somebody else can see outside what you can't see yourself. So I know that's very
Sarah,
valuable.
can I ask you a question? Because,
Yes.
a conversational tone.
Sure.
How does Sarah break through self doubt? What have you learned or seen? It'd be cool to hear from you.
My faith is a very big part of my life. And so any kind of issue like that I deal with the Lord. Through prayer and through reading the word and being reminded of who I am in Christ. That's always where I go to, because there are other helpful things, but my foundation is God's word. It's the truth, of his word. And so that's where I just got to remind myself who I am. And when I do, then I'm a whole lot better off believing his word than myself. So,
Boy, I love that. And I can echo that. And I think what makes, Growth Time unique as a parable or as a fable is that there is a life coach, Coach G, that's a central figure in the book. And the power of you is really about getting clear on your purpose plan as a human, but also the divine purpose plan for you. So it kind of takes the approach of the real power of you is manifested when you get clear on the self-improvement, but then the God improvement that's trying to come forward in your life. And that's a powerful journey. When those are combined, I've seen people really break through self-doubt and develop what I call these different layers of identity anchors that become really rooted. And then when the life quakes hit, you don't crumble, you don't get caught up in the rumble, you shift. You're able to have confidence to be resilient through that.
yeah, absolutely. I can testify to that in my own life. I can't imagine going through a lot of the things that we've been through without knowing the Lord and without having that foundation. I don't know how people do it. I really don't, because I'm a mess without God. So totally. Quinn, this has been so wonderful. I have loved talking to you, and I loved hearing about your program. I'm interested in getting your book, so I'm going to go add it to my cart on Amazon. I love to read, as you can see. So I think it's going to be great. I'm excited about reading it.
Love your feedback too.
Absolutely. True. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I will be in touch soon when this is edited and ready to go.
That sounds good. I
All right.
appreciate you.
All right. And have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Life Stories Podcast. There are a few ways you can support me so that I can continue putting out great content. You can like and share this episode, send it to a friend that you think might be encouraged by it, subscribe to my channel, whichever format you're listening to, and tell people about my podcast. You can also buy me a virtual coffee. The link is below, and it's also at the bottom of my website. Every donation helps me continue doing what I'm doing. Thanks for being here.